אנו מקשר עצמנו לכל הצדיקים אמיתיים שבדוננו לכל הצדיקים אמיתיים שוכני עפר קדושים אשר בעצם הוא ישראל לבנו הקדוש צדיק יסוד עולם נחן רבי מלך חוכמה רבי נחמן פייגה נחמן מעומד אחותם תגן עלינו וכל ישראל amen. Okay, so obviously Parashat Beha'alotecha, and by the way you guys can cut me off whenever it is, shoot out, then forget the camera's here, you know, so Bezrat Hashem, we're going to talk about the menorah tonight. And not just the deep secrets of the menorah, because there's many classes about that, and there's people that can do it much better than I can. But we're going to speak about the practicality behind the menorah. And that's the essence of why we're here. That study is not the most important thing, action is. So we're going to try to find the action behind this menorah and to find and really dig deep about what this means. But we're specifically going to say something about Moshe Rabbeinu and the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu and what he brought and his humility specifically. So last night we talked about the ratzon of a person, the desire of a person, that the desire of a person represents this candle, this menorah. And that it should always be burning for Hashem, no matter, even if you fall, you should always keep the ratzon, because the ratzon is the thing that keeps you standing up. And even if a person sins and this and that, he's about to sin, always have the desire to get better. Even in the sin itself, always have the ratzon to push yourself out of it, because the ratzon is the thing that's going to get you out. It's a thing that's going to bring you to the place that you want to be. And Moshe Rabbeinu, the reason why he attained this level, Arizal explains and many other tzaddikim, is that he had the ratzon to do this. And Rabbi Nachman said it all starts with the ratzon, it starts with the desire. So the desire is everything, it's the foundation of a person, it's the foundation of any righteousness that a person will ever gain. It all starts with ratzon. So that's the ikar, and we're going to speak about ratzon maybe a little bit more. Let's see where it goes into. So it says V'zeh ma'aseh menorah in the fourth pasuk of Parashat Beha'alotecha, and it says this was the ma'aseh menorah, the story of the menorah, the entire the way it was built. So let's see what Rabbi Natan says. Ita besefer b'midbar Rabba Beha'alotecha Parashat Samech. So it brings in the midrash in Bamidbar Rabba in this parasha. שמשה רבנו עליו השלום נתקשה מאוד על מעשה המנורה כמו שאמרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה. That Moshe Rabbeinu had a very difficult time understanding the menorah and how it's built and the entire structure and everything. As the Chachamim say, וביותר מבואר במדרש רבה פרשת בהעלותך פרשה ט"ו, and it's specifically brought in the midrash פרשת ט"ו, פרשת בהעלותך, how difficult, the entire story of how Moshe Rabbeinu found a very difficult time with this menorah. Muva b'Yalkut HaRuveni Parashat Chuma, and it's also brought in the Midrash Yalkut HaRuveni in Parashat Chuma, שנתקשה בה מאוד, that he had a very difficult time with the menorah. ואפילו כשהשם יתברך גילה לא חזר ושכח מעשיה כשירד. The second Hashem Yitbarach revealed to him how to make the menorah and how to build it, immediately, the second he got down, it got forgotten from his mind. It got taken away from him. So we're going to understand why. Rabbi Natan is going to explain specifically why this happened. And we're going to understand Moshe Rabbeinu's humility by this. It's unbelievable. It says, Moshe Rabbeinu, the second he forgot it, he went back up. He went and asked Hashem how to explain it to him again, the explanation of how to make it. And he explained it, Hashem explained it to Moshe Rabbeinu, and the second he got back down, he forgot it. And this happened several times. Until Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, go to Betzalel and he'll explain to you how to do it. Which is fascinating because we're talking about the biggest tzaddik of the generation, biggest tzaddik of our history. And yet he's going to Betzalel, who was, they say, 13, at the age of 13 when he built the Mishkan. So there's something very interesting going on here. He began to wonder and he said, אני כמה פעמים הראה לי הקדוש ברוך הוא ונתקשיתי לעשותה ואתה שלא ראית עשית מידתך. So he asked Betzalel and he wonders, Moshe Rabbeinu is wondering about the matter. God showed me so many times how to do it. He showed it to me. And yet I still don't understand how to do it and I have questions about how to do it. And yet Hashem didn't even show Betzalel. He just told him how to do it and he did it. So there's a very big disconnect here and there's something very strange going on. So Rabbi Natan goes on to say, Betzalel comes from the word Betzelkel, in the shadow of Hashem. Hayita omed kshe'ara li hakadosh baruch hu asiyata ad kan leshono. So what did it say? Yeah, this is bringing the midrash, I think. Betzalel was standing in the shade of Hashem. Hayita omed, he was standing. Sheher'a li hakadosh baruch hu asiyata. I think he was standing there when Hashem showed Sheher'a li hakadosh baruch hu asiyata. Betzalel was standing in the shade of Hashem when Hashem was showing Moshe Rabbeinu how to do the menorah. He was standing there. What this all means, I have no idea, and I could be interpreting this wrong. So we go on with it to see if it makes more sense. And if you guys got any ideas, shoot, because that's the point. And while he was saying this, he was like astonished by this sight. Let's see what that means. So I think Moshe Rabbeinu was astonished by the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know how to do it when he was showed how to do this many, many times. And Betzalel did it immediately without even being really showed by it. And if we're gonna go according to the logic and according to the Midrash that says that Betzalel was standing in the shadow of Hashem when Hashem was showing Moshe how to do it, if we're gonna say this is true, didn't Moshe himself stand there also? And didn't Hashem himself come and teach Moshe and reveal to him how to do it time after time? So there's a big question. How can we say Betzalel Betzalel, right, in the shadow of Hashem? But Rabbi Natan is explaining this is still a question. Because Moshe Rabbeinu is panim et panim, he's standing face to face with God. He's being taught by God himself, and yet he still doesn't understand it. So what's going on? And this is why this is a very big question. And this is why Moshe Rabbeinu had a big question. And Betzalel, who was only standing on the side in the shadow of Hashem, it wasn't standing right before Hashem, he was standing in the shadow behind Moshe or whatever it was, understood immediately how to do it. And I don't know what this really means. It's in Aramaic, but I think it's if the Rav didn't learn how to do Chiyah Minale, I have no idea. Honestly, I'm not going to try to translate that. But it's basically, I think the context of this is that if Moshe Rabbeinu knew how to do it, how it didn't know how to do it, how can the student really? Or how can Betzalel know? So there's a very big question here. In order to understand this from in order to understand this from a distance, we have to push ourselves back out of this, understand the words of the Chachamim in the Midrash, and dig very deep in the way to interpret this. כי בוודאי משה נתקשה מאוד מאוד כמה פעמים מעשה המנורה שהוא בחינת לעשות כלי קדושה ונוראה כזאת שיוכל להאיר על ידה הארת הרצון לקדושה. Now Rabbi Natan explained the entire idea of the menorah. What's the essence and the symbol of the menorah? He's explaining that Moshe Rabbeinu had very big questions many, many times about how to make the menorah. Why? Because making the menorah is making really what? Making a kli kdosha, a holy vessel. Benora'a kazot, and a very lofty vessel. Sheyuchal le'a'ir al yada, that through this, it's a vehicle to what? He'arat haratzon, to illuminate what? Ratzon. What we
did Moshe not have emunah in himself that he could do that?
So that's what he's going to explain. But we're going to see where... No. Ba'usha kivanta, He's going to explain exactly where he's heading with that. What did you just say? Moshe Rabbeinu? It's it's kind of like that. You're going to explain... Yeah, we're going to see it. It's exactly that kind of. What's it say? Moshe Rabbeinu had a question of how to build this, not the menorah, but the essence of the menorah. What's the essence of the menorah? It's a holy vessel that's able, through the menorah, to illuminate Ratzon in the entire world. Bechol Yisrael, in all of Israel. Because when you light the menorah, what are you really lighting? What we talked about? You're lighting the desire on each and every Jew. Because what did we say in last week, in the past Likutei Halachot? Understand the context. We said, what's the menorah? It's light, right? There are nerot, there's 7 candles, there's 7 jugs of light. What's ner, a candle? It says in the pasuk in Mishlei, ner Hashem nishmat adam. The candle of Hashem is the neshama of man, the soul of man. And what's the neshama? It's the nefesh, it's the soul, right? So what's soul? Nefesh is ratzon, Rabbi Nachman explains. Nefesh is desire. Because it says, Im yeshet nafshechem. I think the pasuk is, Im yeshet nafshechem. It says in Parashat Bereshit, or in Sefer Bereshit, I think. If it is your desire, Im yeshet nafshechem. So nafshechem comes from the word nefesh, which is the lowest aspect of the soul. And nafshechem means desire. So Rabbi Natan going to explain that nefesh is desire. And what's nefesh? It's candle, as we explained. Because Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam, the candle of Hashem, is the soul of man. So nefesh and candle and ratzon are all one idea. When you light the menorah, what are you really lighting? You're lighting the ratzon in each and every Jew. So what's he explaining here? Something unbelievable. He's explaining that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't understand how to build this vessel. What's this vessel? A vessel through which it's a vehicle to transmit ratzon, desire, to all of Am Yisrael, no matter which level he's on, lowest to highest. He didn't understand how to do that. But look what it goes on to. Does that make sense? Because lighting the menorah is doing that. And who lights the menorah? The Kohen Gadol, who's the aspect of the tzaddik of the generation. He's lighting the ratzon in each and every Jew. But look what he goes on to continue. Goes on to say, בכל אחד ואחד מישראל, בכל מה שיעבור עליו כל ימי חייו, שבכל מיני חושך ובכל מיני ירידות ונפילות שיעברו עליו, בכולם יתגבר בתוקף הרצון שיעיר לו לעלות מכולם. What's the entire idea of lighting the menorah? It's within every darkness, no matter where this Jew has fallen, no matter what has come upon this person in all his life, no matter which darkness that chases after this person, no matter how many times he's fallen in each and every darkness in the entire world, in the darkest of darknesses, in that place, the menorah can be lit. Meaning a ratzon can still be lit from there. Meaning you can still have the ratzon, the desire to get close to Hashem, even from the darkest place in the entire world. And that ratzon is enough to illuminate a person, to be able to elevate him from that darkness. But you cannot get out from the darkest place except by the ratzon. And understand that very clearly, because the ratzon is the essence of the way a person gets out of the darkest places. The desire to get out. Because if a person does not have the desire to get out, it's impossible. Because, as Rabbi Natan is explaining, it's very difficult to understand how to build a vessel like this. Because this entire vessel is to transmit Chatzon to the entire Jewish people. So to build something like this, obviously requires a lot of effort. So Moshe Rabbeinu didn't get it even after many times, because to transmit Chatzon to all of Bnei Israel is a work.
What's different about B'Tzalel that he can help Moshe Rabbeinu complete this?
So this is what Rabbi Natan's going to get into right now. בפרט שכבר ראה משה בעיניו מה שנעשה בזה העולם שאחרי כל האותות הנוראות שעשה עם ישראל ביציאת מצרים מבחינת ים סוף מתן תורה וכולי. He's saying specifically that Moshe already saw with his own eyes מה שנעשה בזה העולם, what has been done in this world after all the miracles and all the wonders that had happened to Israel with Yetziat Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt and the splitting of the sea and all this stuff. And Matan Torah. Even after all those things, what happened? They fell. Which is an insane idea. על כן לא היה לאכול להשיג ולהכניס בדתו עשיית המנורה שהיא בחינת הערת הרצון בתיקונים נפלאים כאלה המרוזים בשבעה קני המנורה. What's he saying? Even after all those wonders that happened, even after all those highs, they fell down so very low. So Moshe Rabbeinu understood how difficult it is to be strong in the aspect of free will. Because there's always a choice, bad or good. And even with all the good in the world, that you see all the miracles in the world, you can still fall. Avodah Zarah, they did Egel HaZahav, they did the sin of the Meraglim. We're about to see next week's Parashat. Even after all those miracles, Matan Torah, there's that. And we say, even the Shifcha, the maidservant on the sea, saw what Moshe Rabbeinu saw. So, everyone in Bnei Israel saw this. And yet they still fell. So, this is very difficult. And this is why Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't perceive this, because to make a menorah, which is to build the ratzon in all the Jewish people, is something very difficult. And it has to be done in very great rectifications. And all of this is hinted within the 7, how do you call those branches of the menorah, right? And how many? I don't know I know there's different sections of the menorah and there's different parts of the menorah. There's 11 of something. There's v'tish'ah pchachim. There's 9 of the, I think, like the flowers. V'eschim u'shnayim gevi'im, and 29 something. I don't know the different.
It's machloket, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So explain.
The order. I mean, the same thing. There's machloket in the Gemara, whether it's what's the order, right? It's the flowers and like the bell cups, or
Mm-hmm.
right? Something like that. And there's a machloket of what exact order, but I think the numbers are the same. I don't know.
Got it. So yeah, so you explained it better than I did. So there's different sections to the menorah, and what he was saying, the flowers, the cups, and everything, and all of this has very specific and very intentional ideas with regard to Ratzon. Each and every piece of the menorah. So what's it saying? If you add up all those pieces, you have the 7 branches, the 11 kaftorim. I don't know what the kaftorim are, but I don't know if someone wants to get a chumash or something like that, like a.
Our school probably has an illustration of it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an art scroll there or something. Oh, right here. Right here. That way we can see it.
Yeah.
Here, Benjamin, you want to look at it? Here. If you add up the 7 branches, the 11 of this thing, which we're going to find out, the v'tisha pchachim, the 9 flowers, and the 29 gvi'im, the cups, I guess. If you add all those up, you get 49. 29 plus 7 plus 11 plus 9 is what? 49. Which represent what? Keneged 49 yemei asfira, corresponding to the 49 days of Sfirat HaOmer. She'avru al Yisrael ve'achar כך kiblu et Torah, that they came upon Bnei Israel and then only after they received the Torah. What did that mean? כמובן כל זה בכוונת האריזל. This is explained in all the kavanot of the Arizal. ומובא שהוא שורש התורה בחינת שער 50 שהוא שורש התורה שלא השיגו משה בחייו רק בעת הסתכלותו נסתלק לשם. It's amazing, he's saying. The menorah represents the root of the entire Torah, which represents the 50th gate, because it's 49 days, but there's the 50th day, which is the day of Shavuot, which is the day we receive the Torah. So the Torah in itself and the menorah, which is an aspect of the Torah, we say, is the aspect of 50, which is this aspect that Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't attain in his own life. He only attained it on his death. This is why I saw where Moshe Rabbeinu was, where he passed away, was where? Har Nevo, on the mountain of Nevo. What's Nevo? It's Nunbo, 50th year. Because only when he passed away, he attained the 50th gate. 50th gate is a perception of what we call, it's like the understanding of Eretz Yisrael is the 50th gate. Why Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't enter Eretz Yisrael? Because he wasn't allowed, he was like barred from entering this 50th gate, which is something very fascinating. So Moshe, only upon his passing, received this. And he's explaining the 49 days of the Sfirat HaOmer represent the 49 different pieces of the menorah. And the entire menorah as a whole in itself is the light, we can say maybe, is the Torah, is the 50th gate. So you have to go through these dark places, which is Sfirat HaOmer, because we're building the Kedusha on our own. We're going through the struggles on our own, whereas Matan Torah, we're getting it, we're receiving. This, we're working for it. And this is the way it has to be built. There's these two mentalities.
Wait, can you repeat that quick? What was the first 49? The combination of what?
It's the 7 branches of the menorah, the 11, I don't know what the kaftorim are. Shab chachim, the 9 flowers. Love you, bro. Bezrat Hashem.
So it's 49.
The 49 pieces of the menorah. 49 elements.
You said that Sfirat HaOmer was given to us. No, we have to work for it.
But Matan Torah is the aspect of the Torah which we receive only because we work for it.
So we have to work for the menorah too, to like attaining
the menorah, the ratzon. It's like it's an interesting point. So we're gonna see what he really means here.
Are you saying the 50th day year is Ein Sof? Is that what you meant? Like by, because he Mincha Shabbat, so when he passed away.
Ratzon sheberatzonot.
Right. So
he passed away in the Mincha of Shabbat. Exactly what you said. Where did Moshe Rabbeinu pass away to? It's called Ra'ava de Ra'avim.
It's called Sha'ar et Ratzon, bro.
Exactly. Et Ratzon, exactly. So it's Ratzon. Moshe Rabbeinu passed away in Ratzon. Moshe Rabbeinu also is Gematria Ratzon. You have Ratzon 346. Moshe Rabbeinu is 345, and Shmad, which is destruction, is 344. Which is what Moshe Rabbeinu stands always between Shmad and Ratzon, destruction and favor, which is an insane idea. To prove to you what? That Moshe Rabbeinu is always tilting Bnei Israel, which always stand on the side of destruction because we're always guilty, and he always does Azam Ra, finds a good point in Bnei Israel and always brings them to the side of Ratzon, which is beyond. But you cannot attain Ratzon without the Tzaddik. That's what we explained last night. The Tzaddik Haemet, the holy Tzaddik, Moshe Rabbeinu, is able to illuminate in all Am Yisrael the Ratzon. That's why he is the one that tells Aaron to light the menorah. Because even the Kohen Gadol cannot light the menorah without the Tzaddik. So, what's Aaron coming to light the menorah? There's many deep secrets about it, but it's all coming to face El Mul Pnei menorah. It's all the 7 candles have to be lit facing the menorah.
Is that why the Kohanut had to go through Moshe first? That's why he gave it to Aaron?
Oh wow, that's also very interesting.
I don't know, just wondering what
Very possible.
Let's go to the Tzaddik first then. Accessible to
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure there's something there. So we say the Pnei menorah, the face of the menorah, is the Tzaddik. All the 7 candles will be facing the Tzaddik. They all are rooted with who? The Tzaddik. The Tzaddik is able to illuminate all the Retzonot, all the 7 candles, all the Neshamot of Bnei Israel, whichever way they fall. Because the 7 candles represent what? The 7 weeks of Sfirat Omer. Which also represent what? 49 gates of impurity. There's 49 gates of purity, 49 gates of impurity.
So the menorah is the 49 plus the 50, like plus it.
The
Menorah itself is
50
49, right? But that concept
of the menorah as a whole
is the 50th.
is the Tzaddik. So the 49 gates represent the 49 gates of impurity, and there's nishamot that fall into each one. The tzaddik, though, is able to illuminate whichever gate that a person falls in, and is able to illuminate them with chatzon. All Rabbeinu wants, Rabbi Nachman, tzaddikim, Moshe Rabbeinu, all they want is one thing, is the chatzon, because with the chatzon is enough to be able to do it, to be able to be on the side of merit. That's the power of chatzon.
Where did you say the word was?
Kaftorim.
He's with the game river, the path like that.
Well, because I went to Beha'alotecha, but then it sent me to account. It just says nothing word isn't there, but it says cups, knobs, and flowers. So for some
Knobs, maybe. Wow. Okay, fine.
The knobs of the menorah. What does that mean?
Just different like designs.
The menorah is like pretty big, no?
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah, it's big.
It was big?
So
Huge.
got a lot going on, per se.
So we see that tzaddik is the essence of the menorah, pnei menorah, the face of the menorah, and everyone receives their light and their ratzon and their entire closeness to Hashem just because of the tzaddik. So the tzaddik's the foundation. But look what he says. We say, according to the Kavanot of the Ari, shehu shoresh haTorah. What's it saying? Okay. So, yeah. I think the menorah is the aspect of the Torah in itself, which is the 50th gate, which is the thing that Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't perceive in his life, only whenever he passed away. But look at the significance behind the menorah, and look at Moshe Rabbeinu's humility. Ki sham hu b'chinat ratzon ha'elyon. Because there, whenever Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, he passed away in what? The aspect of ratzon ha'elyon, the supernal ratzon, God's ratzon. Because there's different attributes of Hashem that come and manifest themselves. And on Shabbat Mincha is the highest level of the entire week. The Mincha of Shabbat is the highest level of the entire week. And what do we say? The Rabbah de Rabbin, it's a time of the will of wills. It's God's will himself that comes down. God himself comes down. And what we say, David HaMelech passed away in Rabbah de Rabbin, Shabbat in Mincha of Shabbat. Moshe Rabbeinu and Yosef HaTzadik also. So there's this idea that Moshe Rabbeinu is passing away in Ratzon because that's his entire essence. He is Ratzon.
Wait, he was able to accomplish it after.
Only in his passing, yeah.
Yeah. So what did Betzal have to do with it?
So look. B'chinat Ratzon sheberatzonot. So this is the aspect of the supernal Ratzon, which is what? Ratzon sheberatzonot. The will of all wills. That is who's the cause of all the wills in the world? God. He's the source of all wills. Shemachnis tokef haratzon dikdusha belev kol Yisrael. That he enters, the tzaddik is able to enter. Or it's God himself. That shemachnis tokef haratzon. That he enters the strength and of this desire, of this will, dikdusha, of this holy will, belev kol Yisrael she'ir lahem b'chol minei choshech. And he lights this will and desire in all the hearts of Am Yisrael to illuminate them in the darkest places. Because understand one thing, when you're in the darkest place, there's only one thing you could do. It's to have the will to get out. Because no one can actually get out when you're in the darkest place. We say the Yetzer Hara takes away your dat. Rabbeinu says, the reason why a person suffers from like sin, we call a person who sins a meshuga. You know that. Because we say, what did it say? Yeah, ruach shtut. Exactly. A person does not sin unless he has a ruach shtut enter him. A spirit, good man. A spirit of foolishness. Which means he's actually meshuga, he's crazy. Why? Because Rabbeinu says, your da'at is taken away from you. Your intellect, your understanding of Hashem, all the tools that you had, some of them are taken away from you, so you can't pass the test or something. And that's why you fall. Your da'at is taken away from you. But the ratzon is the only thing you can have there. The ratzon is above the da'at. The ratzon is something even greater than that. It comes from the source of keter, which is above the intellect.
Oh, maybe because ratzon is also like teshuvah, right? Teshuvah is the highest level. So that's what it is, no?
Yeah, definitely. Look, this is all connected. It's all very deeply intertwined. So what did he say? And this is why Moshe Rabbeinu had such a difficult time, because this is the turnaround point. This is where Rabbi Nathan goes into it. But Betzalel, who represents the proper Talmid, the proper student, who's the one who's able to really take in the teaching of the Tzaddik, who's really able to illuminate the light of the Tzaddik and filter it. Betzalel understood and he saw Shema shenitkasha Moshe kol kach hu mechamat otzem el vetanuto in vetanuto hagdola shaya anab meod velo ratza lechazik tova lenafsho. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu have such a difficult time? Kol kach hu mechamat, because otzem in vetanuto hagdola, the essence of his humility, his great humility, that he was so humble that he didn't even want to give himself his own soul goodness. Meaning what? He didn't even want to tell himself that he was that good, that he was able to illuminate all of Am Yisrael with the Ratzonot, that he was able to bring Ratzon into all Am Yisrael, because that's the power of the Tzaddik. The Tzaddik is able to illuminate in each and every soul in Am Yisrael, no matter where he is, a Ratzon to get close to Hashem. And that's enough. That's why Rabbi Nachman is so powerful in the Ratzon. It's the desire to do something, because forget your actions for a second. The desire is what a person is. Because do you say a person is a person because of his body or his soul? When you say, hey, Kalev, am I referring to your soul or your body?
I'm going to assume my soul.
For sure. Because when your body leaves this world, you still call yourself by that name. Because the soul is the name. We say the soul is the name. So, what were we getting at? I don't even know. It actually just escaped me. It's insane.
Did he believe in himself or something?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let's see what it says. He didn't want to give himself strength to his own soul. He didn't want to give himself the credit that he had the strength to illuminate each and every soul. And this is brought in the Zohar in Parashat Beha'alotecha. This is why Moshe Rabbeinu didn't understand, and he had such a difficult time with being able to build this holy vessel, which is what this vessel that's able to transmit. It's the vehicle to be able to illuminate every neshama in Am Yisrael with a ratzon to get close to Hashem. But that's only possible because of the tzaddik. Because the tzaddik is the ratzon. He's the ratzon of Hashem. The tzaddik passes away. He's completely mivatel himself. He completely nullifies himself. And he completely removes himself from this world to the point where he dies in what? The ratzon shebaratzonot, in God's desire, which is insane. Which is the 50th gate, which is Matan Torah, which is Shavuot, which is something that a person, it's impossible to attain in the 50th, in this world. Very few people attained it. Even Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't attain it, only in his passing. Rabbeinu attained it, had the possibility, he attained it. Upon entering 4 feet in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Nachman he had the taste of this, he got it. And there's this inyan also that again escaped.
What
Okay.
about Shem Tov would have attained the 50th if he would have wanted to exercise?
I think so.
What about Mashiach? No, the whole thing with that thing.
Yeah. Because Eretz Yisrael is the aspect of the 50th gate. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't allowed to go. It was hidden from him. But Rabbi Nachman said the second he walked 4 feet in Eretz Yisrael, he said he already attained all the levels. And maybe there's more. Remember we talked about this Sinan? You know there's 5 levels of souls, right? There's Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. Moshe Rabbeinu we say was that the aspect of Chaya. But there's a soul called Yechida. We say the soul of the Mashiach is going to be from Yechida, the highest point. Rabbeinu said he got to Yechida, to the highest point of Yechida, the Yechida of Yechida. And he said, maybe there's more. He said, I've already attained what there is to attain, but maybe there's more, I want to move forward. Which comes to show us, even the system everyone's built, and even the system that Zohar has told us, who knows, maybe there's more. It's insane. It's unbelievable. But it comes to show you that God is infinite. So God can always, God is infinitely, you know what I mean? He's greatly infinite. So the tzaddikim can always push up. They can break the boundaries in the system. So Moshe Rabbeinu had such a difficult time being able to build a vessel like this because this vessel is the source of all the redemptions from all your exiles. Because this vessel is able to illuminate each and every person to bring the light to the darkness, which is the Ratzon. Understand the Ratzon is the light in every darkness, the desire. If you have nothing, no courage to be able to defeat yourself, to be able to overcome the Yetzer Hara, just understand that one thing's enough. It's the desire to beat him. You know, some people give up, they fall on whatever it is, Pegama Brit, whatever it is. And the biggest mistake they do is when they fall into that sin, is they say, okay, it's finished, I have no chance. That's the biggest thing. The worst sin of all is Enshum Yeush. The worst sin of all is Yeush. It's giving up. Because once you say you don't have the Ratzon for it, it's finished. You're out. Yetzer Hara, KO, you're dead. But once you believe that there's a chance to move up, that there's no such thing as giving up, that's the Ratzon. So Rabbeinu is explaining this, and Rabbi Natan is explaining this. That what's Betzalel? Betzalel is the proper Talmid. Moshe Rabbeinu had so much humility, he didn't even believe that, he didn't even want to give himself the credit that he could do that he could build such a vessel that he could illuminate all of Israel. He was so humble, he didn't even want to believe that. And this is why it was so difficult for him to make the menorah. That he was able to illuminate the Ratzon lenetzach for victory. Netzach is gematria Rab Nachman also, just so you guys know. מלחמת שהבין שהדבר תלוי בו שצריך שיהיה נכלל כל כך ברצון העליון. Because he understood that the entire, שהדבר תלוי בו שצריך שיהיה נכלל כל כך ברצון העליון. עד שיוכל להכניס הרצון לנצח בכל ישראל. That this, building the menorah, to build it, you need to be included in the supernal ratzon. Until you're able to take that ratzon, God's ratzon himself, and take that ratzon and draw it to each and every soul. The tzaddik is able to draw the light of Hashem, to draw the light of Ein Sof Baruch Hu, the light of God himself, and be able to bring it to each and every person's neshama. Because what do we say the neshama is? Chelek Eloka Mimal. It's a portion from God, of God from above. So the tzaddik is just to draw you to Hashem. And the tzaddik is the bridge. But look at this. והוא באינביטנותו לא היה יכול להשיג שיהיה לו כוח זה. Moshe Rabbeinu in his humility didn't believe, it didn't attain that with his humility he wasn't able to attain that he had this power to do that. Can you imagine? על כן התקשה מאוד מאוד על זה, אבל בצלאל תלמידו הבין מהרחוק גדולת רבו. But Betzalel from afar saw the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabbi Nachman, the same minyan. That on the contrary, because of the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu had such humility, he didn't believe he could do it, Betzalel understood that humility in itself, the fact that he didn't believe, is the humility that was enabling him, Moshe Rabbeinu, to be able to be completely nullified in the Ratzon Elyon, in the supernal Ratzon.
So he got some type of Ratzon.
Moshe Rabbeinu attained the 50th gate because of the fact that he didn't even believe he attained it. Can you imagine?
But you didn't, I don't know, but you didn't get the Ratzon of the Menorah though.
Huh?
You got the higher Ratzon.
He didn't get the Ratzon of what?
You didn't get the Ratzon of the Menorah then.
He did. Because how was he able to tell?
Oh, after you're saying. How does...
Only because of Betzalel. Because only Betzalel understood. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't attain it, right? We say Moshe Rabbeinu died. He didn't attain it himself.
Oh, so Moshe Rabbeinu didn't even know that's
He didn't. Moshe Rabbeinu attained it. He didn't even know he attained it.
Betzalel knew.
Can you imagine?
Oh, so that's why it says go to Betzalel? Wow.
Because Betzalel is in the shade. The tzaddik is in complete bitul to Hashem. It's like lesson 4 of the Likutei Moharan. What did he explain? The tzaddik completely nullifies himself to God in the ratzon of God. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu, who is the essence of the tzaddik, who is the aspect of the Mashiach, died within the ratzon shel ratzonot, in the will of wills, in God's will Himself, in God Himself, and he passed away in Minchav Shabbat, which is the highest form of this will, you know, and Moshe Rabbeinu didn't understand that he had the power to illuminate all the wills of Am Yisrael, to connect all of Am Yisrael to the upper, supernal will. He didn't believe it. But it's like Rabbi Natan, right? And Betzalel. What do? They stand. The tzaddik is like this before all the light of Hashem, but he lowers himself so low to the point where he doesn't even realize he has that kedusha. But Betzalel sees that Moshe Rabbeinu attained that humility, and only he can build it.
What was Betzalel's dad's name?
Ben Uri? Ben Hu? No.
Ben Uri?
Oh, maybe? Wow.
That's crazy, huh?
Insane. Chazak. This is why it was so difficult for Moshe. אבל בצלאל תלמידו הבין מהחוק גדולת רבו משה שעד רמת שלמדו תלמידו הגדולה כל כך הוא נכלל בתכלית הביטול. Moshe Rabbeinu attained the entire essence of this nullification ברצון העליון, in the supernal רצון. כי שם אי אפשר להיכלל בשלמות. כי אם על ידי תכלית הענווה והביטול, כמשה. Because there, to be included in that רצון of God, it's impossible to do that, except if you're as humble as Moshe, who was so humble to the point where he didn't even understand he was able to do that. It's
That's crazy.
על כן, בצלאל בחינת התלמיד השיג מיד עשייתה. This is why Betzalel understood immediately how to do it. כי הוא אמר, אני בטוח בכוחו של זקן שהוא משה. Because Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't even certain about himself, but Betzalel was more certain Moshe than Moshe was certain Moshe. אני בטוח, I'm certain בכוחו של זקן שהוא משה. I'm certain in the power of this tzaddik, this wise person, which is Moshe. שבוודאי אעשה אותה ואגמור אותה כראוי. That Moshe Rabbeinu can certainly build it and he will finish it properly. כי אני מאמין בכוחו של רבי, שבוודאי יגמור ויגמור וירניס הערת הרצון בזה העולם. That I believe with all my strength, בכוחו של רבי, with the strength of my Rav, which is Moshe Rabbeinu, שבוודאי, that certainly יגמור ויגמור, that he will finish and he will continue to finish. It's literally the same words Rabbi Nachman did before he passed away. גמרתי ואגמור, I have finished, I will finish.
Those are his last words? That's how.
Like, they were, no, it's his quote. It's not his last words. I made it more dramatic than it was. I lied.
What were his last words? Do we know what his last words were?
Yeah.
What was it?
Le'at, le'at. Slowly, slowly.
No way. Let's come to Hashem slowly, isn't it?
I don't know what it is, but it's everything. The last words of the tzaddik are everything. If you were to just take those words, by the way, I'm sure you'll find something.
For sure.
Baby steps.
Yes, baby steps.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's that. And a beautiful word Rabbi Nachman said also, I think a few words before he passed away, like a few hours before he passed away, he said, what's the news? He asked Rabbi Shimon, his attendant, what's the news? And Rabbi Shimon was shocked by this because Rabbeinu was on his deathbed. And he's asking what's the news. And Rabbeinu looked at him after, he didn't respond, and he said, I can't live without the news. Which is, at a very simple level, the way you can perceive this is that the news is chor, right? It's mundane. The news of the entire world. But the power of the tzaddik is to take that mundane object and to incorporate it with the utmost holiness. That's why Rabbi Nachman at the Shabbat table was very accustomed to speak about the town news and all this stuff, because the tzaddik at the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Ari HaKadosh, their entire goal is to take the conversations of this world and to incorporate it into the Torah to the point where it becomes a Torah of its own. Rabbi Nachman said, there's the koach of a tzaddik that's so high that his words of mundane conversation are even greater than the divrei Torah of a big tzaddik. Rabbi Nachman's mundane conversation was bigger than the biggest tzaddikim's Torah, divrei Torah, because Imagine to be able to incorporate the Torah and to put all the essence of God's intellect and all the secrets of the Torah in a worldly conversation. That's the entire point of this world. It's not to separate yourself from the Torah. It's to bring the Torah to the lowest place. And that's the tachlit, that's the purpose of why we're here.
That's why in Go Shemayim, the first thing you're asked is whether you're good in business.
Wow. That's insane.
That's the first question.
Well, I think it's also a machloket in Travis. It's talking. It was about Hillel, and I think he says that, but I think it's like someone says something else, but it's around the same lines. I know for sure this is one of the opinions that you ask you, well, were you fair in your business dealings? Then did you set time, like order time for learning? And the third
did you hope for the redemption?
Yeah, and I think there's 5.
There might be,
or maybe 3 or 5. I don't know, but those are like the main.
But the order is the first one is the business question.
Yeah, because you gotta implement, just like how a lot of things that some people are meant to just sit and learn, but most people have to take their learning and put it into the world.
And it could even be a higher work than those who sit down and learn. Rabbi Nachman explains it can get to the point where you can be building a mishkan in your work. Melachet mishkan.
That's why was it this week's Parashat? Or was I listening to something this week's Parashat? Maybe something else? That Yisachar and Zevulun, it said, because which one? One of them finances the learning of the other, and it says whoever first, it says him first, and he gets the honor of being first, because he finances the learning of his brother. He's the one doing the business in order for everything else to work.
Wow. I think Zevulun would go out on the boat, and Yisachar would be the...
Yeah, so
I don't know, I could be wrong though.
yeah, I don't know which one. But one of them is the learning and one of them is the business.
It's amazing.
Sure the one who does the business also learns, but
For sure.
yeah.
Wait, what did they do in the Mishkan that would make it what did they do in the Mishkan that would make it like a mundane or something?
39 milachot.
No, I don't know.
What are you talking about?
No, I don't know if they build a Mishkan.
I'm not sure. But exactly what we're saying. The entire goal of the entire world is to take the Torah, Tosha, and bring it down here to the lowest level. And that's the beauty of Rabbeinu's Torah, is that the deepest secrets are being revealed in the simplest form. And that's the power and the koach of this tzaddik. That's Rabbi Nachman. Because Moshe Rabbeinu brought it down to a certain degree, the Torah. But who knows how to apply the Torah just from Torah Shebirtav? No one. Then came Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and brought the Zohar. And the Zohar revealed all the secrets of the Torah that needed to be revealed. Because he said, with the Zohar, book of the Zohar will be redeemed out of the final redemption. But who can study the Zohar today and bring something and to make yourself a better person with it? I don't know. And then the Ari came and he furthered it more. And the Baal Shem Tov was the 4th one. And he brought down Chassidut, which is this idea of bring down the secrets of the Kabbalah and Chassidut, that anyone can be righteous. But Rabbi Nachman brought it down to the degree that...
When did Rabbi Nachman live?
210 years ago. So from 1782 to 1810. And he brought it down the furthest. He went the highest and brought it down the furthest. And this is mamash. It's something very special. It's a redemption. So look what he says. Betzalel, Rabbi Natan's explaining. Betzalel believed in Moshe, in the koach of Moshe, that he would do it and he would finish it properly. And that he would be able, that Moshe Rabbeinu had the power to enter the illumination of Ratzon in this world. That he could take that supernal Ratzon and bring it down all the way down here. Until it would illuminate each and every Jew in every type of darkness that he's in. Because the true tzaddik, he's not able to perceive his own greatness. Because of the fact that he's so humble. He cannot perceive how big he is. Rabbi Nachman explains in Likutei Moharan, humility is 4 things. First, you have to lower yourself before those who are bigger than you. Second, lower yourself before those who are equal to you in level. Third, lower yourself before those who are lower than you. And fourth, lower yourself before your own level. You know you're at this level, make yourself lower than your actual level. Tell yourself you're actually lower than you actually are. Which is anava, humility.
So we're not taking that the way Moshe Rabbeinu was as a wasn't a negative. It was more. It was too positive. Bitzalel and Moshe together.
Exactly.
It's not like Moshe shouldn't have been at that state. Is that Bitzalel should be there to remind Moshe
Spot
of
on.
the state. Okay.
That's why the tzaddik always has a Talmud. Moshe and Yehoshua.
And-
Bitzalel, right?
Yeah, just like I don't know if it's very related, but just like Shimon Bar Yochai and then his student
Rabbi Abba.
So yeah, and then
The Arizal and Rabbi Chaim Vital.
yeah, and then even in
Baal Shem Tov also. Magid and Mezrich.
no.
Before that?
Nevi'im.
Oh, Eliyahu and Elisha.
Eliyahu and yeah. So
And Rabbi Nachman and Rabbi Natan. There's always someone who writes. And there's always someone who dictates. That's the way it is. And that's the way the true tzaddikim operate. That's the way Moshe Rabbeinu did it. And it's unbelievable that there always has to be a Talmid because he filters that great light. Because the tzaddik is so humble, he doesn't even perceive where he's at. Which is beyond. כל כך מגודל הביטול והענווה שלו כמו שיוכל להשיג מהחוק בבחינת התלמיד. The Talmid can understand even more about the tzaddik's greatness than even he can understand about the tzaddik's greatness, in a sense. Because the tzaddik cannot even perceive it. כי הבין שמחמת זה בעצמו שנתקשר כל כך. Because look how Rabbi Natan turns it on its head. It's unbelievable. It's so beautiful. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was so he had such a problem with this thing and he had such difficulty with this, is a proof of his humility. That his humility was so great. Al asiyata, שזה מחמת הנבלתנותו, על ידי זה דייקה יגמור התיקון. By the fact that he was so humble that he had the question in the first place of how to do it, that's the proof that he's going to be able to do it. שהוא יגמור התיקון של המנורה, דייקה יגמור התיקון של המנורה, שהוא יראת הרצון וכולי, והכן בצלאל דייקה עשה אותה כראוי והכל בכוחו של משה. This is why Betzalel specifically did it, because only Betzalel understood this. And he did it all with the koach of who the tzaddik, his teacher. Amazing, no?
That's it?
That's the end of Likut Halachot.
Great. It's pretty intense. So,
There's so much more, but...
Tied in very nicely. We were talking about today in 11.
Explain. Oh,
And just talking about how sometimes, even like through work, like a righteous person that works and has a specific job maybe, is able to bring like tikkunim and build his own like mishkan, so to speak.
yeah.
What was the exact? So
ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם.
yeah.
It's like repeat.
What?
You really quoting left and right.
Well, I don't know the quote. I know the Hebrew.
legendary.
But I need to focus on knowing the Hebrew.
I didn't know. He was like,
Yeah, because that's the. I mean, there's tons of ways to take. People use that all the time, but it's like you gotta apply it to your own in yourself.
Yeah. It's beyond amazing.
And everything that you said with Moshe Rabbeinu is very consistent with what I was just going through to make sure, like, every time he's very, it even says that Moshe was the most humble person. So,
Yeah.
like,
והאיש משה עיניו מאוד.
yeah.
don't some say he didn't write that or whatever, or maybe he's Joshua?
No, he wrote it.
He did write that.
That's the power of his humility also. In the fact that he can write it and not take any pride from it. Rabbi Nachman explains.
Was that the last puzzle? It was like the last like 12 paragraphs? I'm trying to remember what that is.
It's actually at the end of this Parashat, I think.
Because I saw like a meme of like Moshe,
The humblest man in the world is in the end of this part of the show?
Moshe Rabbeinu.
I
It's the
totally thought
same
it was-
soul that comes back.
I thought it's at the end of
That was
with
at the end,
Miriam,
because this is-
with Miriam getting Surah. What parsha is that?
It could be. I could be totally wrong. I
I'm
don't
not
know.
tripping out. I thought it
it's
was like
in-
the last like paragraph before like.
Oh yeah. והאיש משה עיניו מאוד מכל האדם.
It's at the end of.
אשר על פני האדמה.
But
In
what-
פסוק ג' of פרק י"ב בהעלותך.
Oh, okay.
והאיש משה עיניו מאוד.
What does it say about him in lesson 4 of Luke Tumaran?
That Rabbi Nachman was, that Moshe Rabbeinu was so humble that even when God praised Moshe Rabbeinu in the Torah, that we see by Deber Hashem Moshe Rabbeinu is written inside the Torah, even when he heard that, by God himself telling him how Moshe Rabbeinu was humble and he tells him to write this, he didn't even get pride from this. He wrote it down because he was able to say, if Hashem told me to write it, I am the most humble. He didn't even argue it. It's insane, huh? The humility was so big that I don't even know how to describe it. I'm mind boggled by it.
I mean, that what he just said right there, what Moshe Rabbeinu said right there.
He didn't even receive pride from when
Yeah.
God thought Moshe Rabbeinu was
Exactly.
humble.
Wow.
Insane, no?
Any man
I mean,
receives
Ahmed said he got
pride.
to an even higher level of humility than Moshe Rabbeinu. So just to show you,
Oh,
it's
wow.
insane.
Okay.
It's crazy. He said Moshe Rabbeinu's humility is
I
he didn't say it's what he said it's
Wait, what did you say?
it doesn't even compare to mine, because he says each and every person has to look at someone else and take that person who's bigger than them and receive humility from that, right? But Moshe Rabbeinu receives his humility from me. Who do I receive my humility from? God, I think, or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how he did it. I have to look at Chayei Moran, but it's the most fascinating piece in Chayei Moran because it's something very difficult to understand.
Would you say he quotes where's the Moshe?
It's Perek Yud Bet, Pasuk Gimel, I think, or something like that. Pasuk Gimel. Ve'aish Moshe
Oh,
Anav
that's
Min-
exactly what I said. This is this week's parsha with Miriam getting Sarah, and then it says, "No, Moshe is
How insane is that? It's crazy. But imagine the level Rabbeinu attained. His humility is insane. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't get pride from God's.
Wait, I had a question regarding like, so you said like Rabbeinu was able to go into the most darkness, right? That's what's so special about it.
Yeah.
So, but what does that mean? What does that entail? Like, what was going on in that generation that was so bad?
The enlightenment. The final, the lower the farther we get from Har Sinai, the worse it
It's
gets.
just the worse and worse.
That's why we need a bigger tzaddik every generation.
So Mashiach will be like
The final piece, the
going
encompassing
further
piece.
down, basically.
That I don't
To
know.
now what we have now.
Technically, he's gonna be. Rabbi Nachman said the Mashiach is gonna come from him.
him.
Yeah.
Like from his lineage.
Because
or
Rabbi
from his-
Nachman actually descends directly from David HaMelech on both sides.
Wow.
And Rabbi Nachman said, my descendants treat them very carefully. Because my descendants are directly drawn from the world of Atzilut, which is the highest world up there, the world of the Mashiach, where the Mashiach comes from.
You said Rabbi Nachman actually had a lot of kids, huh?
Many died in their youth. He actually said one of his kids was a Mashiach, passed away.
Oh yeah.
So I named his kid Shlomo Ephraim. Because Mashiach ben Yosef, who's Ephraim. The son of Yosef is Ephraim, and Mashiach ben David is Shlomo. David's son is Shlomo, and Yosef's son is Ephraim. He named his son Shlomo Ephraim because it was Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben Yosef. But he passed away in his youth. He said, because he passed away, you guys would have to wait at least 100 years to see the Mashiach, at least. Which is past.
Clock's ticking.
Clock's ticking. But it's unbelievable to, you know, Rabbeinu, he attained the level that's beyond. He attained Yechidah of Yechidah. You know what that means? That's the limit. Where the Zohar says
Right.
there's a limit of all the souls, he attained the limit. And he says, I want to move further. Maybe there's more. I've never heard that in my entire life. When I read that, I was like,
It's true.
it's insane.
Our minds are.
I puke when I hear that. I don't know what to say. It's
so much more to be there. Even Rabbi Nachman didn't get there. Of course, we have room to go.
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
If Rabbeinu can say this, it's unbelievable. It's insane. I don't know what to say. But that's the beauty of the Torah. The closer you get to the Torah, the more the humility you get. Because the Torah cannot be attained with pride. And Hashem, which is the Torah, because we say, Kudsha Baricho, Oraita ve'Yisrael kol achad. It's in the Zohar, Hashem, Yisrael, and the Torah are all one. One idea. So you cannot attain the Torah, which is Hashem, without humility. Because God is ultimately humble. He's ultimately pashut. He's ultimately simple. And it says in the Gemara Masechet Sotah and Daf Hey, I believe, that God cannot dwell in the same world as an arrogant person. So, a person cannot attain God, which is the Torah, if you're not humble. So even in Torah, a person does study it, even if he has all the chokhmah in the world. He cannot bring it down to action if a person's not humble. Because the action of the Torah is actually the Torah. It's not the Torah in itself. The Torah is just the teaching. But the itzah from which to bring the Torah into action, that's the Torah. That's the entire goal of the Torah. And when someone came to Rabbi Nachman's daughter and said to Rabbi Nachman's daughter, I hear they say about your father that he was bigger than Moshe Rabbeinu. And she said, yeah. Because you know why? Moshe Rabbeinu brought down the Torah. But no one knows how to use the Torah and to actually activate it and to bring it down into practicality, into action.
Right.
There's etzot for the Torah. There's a Torah Shebal Peh. There's advice on how to bring the Torah down. But my father is the Moshe Rabbeinu of advice, of how to bring it down, of action. Which means to understand how to bring it down to action means you have to understand the entire system and more. Which is unbelievable.
It's hard for a lot of great people, like same idea of Shum Bar Chai, because he, same story.
Exactly. It's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, same thing.
And that's why Eliyahu Navi comes to, that was the same type of issue.
Wow.
He didn't know how to understand how the people were, and that's why Elisha had to.
Wow. It's very funny. Yeah, it's sick.
That's why it comes for Pesach to see the Jews are still doing the Seder. They're still doing. You said that they're not. I didn't learn the Navi yet completely, so I don't know. Exactly.
I think he judged the Jewish people,
He
right?
judged them very harshly. He said they're not. I can't deal with right along those lines.
I think so, right?
I only learned it. I never read it through
He
myself.
wanted to die like 3 times.
Yeah, he didn't like how the Jews were, so that's why he comes to every bris and every Pesach to show, like Hashem showing you. Are you ready to see, like, they're still doing the brie, they're still doing Pesach, they're not gonna be lost.
Who says that? Who does that?
Amazing.
Eliyahu Navi?
Leon Navi, that's why
That's sick.
Hashem never died. He got taken, in the chariot, and all the meaning to the fire chariot and all that derived from that.
He does Havamah for. So he's like the tzaddik of Pesach, I guess. See what I'm trying to say?
Rabbeinu, Pesach Gematria Nachman also.
Oh, purely.
Rabbeinu is the tzaddik of all the
Well,
chagim.
you have to give some other people some stuff.
That's why, you know what Rabbi Natan explains? Insane. There's 7 types of tzaddikim. And we know this from where? Sipurei Masiot. Rabbi Nachman's tale, his last tale. He said, if I came to the world only to tell this tale of the 7 beggars, it would be enough. I would be considered chidush, novelty. Just that. Not even Torah, Likutei Moran, forget it. He said, just that tale is enough to make me novel.
What's the tip?
Yeah, come on, where you going here?
That, all I can recommend is you buy a Sipurei Masiot, you buy the 13 tales of Rabbi Nachman, and you read the last tale. Because that is the highest thing, that's the highest teaching that ever came down to the world. To the world.
So you're telling me like, yo, this is
Because
the
look,
best movie of all time.
Yo, we talk we talk about Torah.
Funniest joke you're ever heard. You heard it?
Buy it on Amazon.
You know what? You know why the 13.
There. This is one key advice. Wait for the end of the 4-minute ad.
I can't explain it because I read the tale, but it's extremely delicate and it's extremely detailed. And there's 7 days to the story. The 7th day, Rabbi Nachman said he won't tell. He's gonna wait for the Mashiach to tell it. He didn't reveal the 7th day. Each day, there's a certain beggar.
Even he got you like this. I'm not gonna tell you the whole thing. So,
Yeah, bro. He did that also for the end of the Lost Princess and for many different stories.
Wait, what?
You have to wait till Eliyahu Navi is coming.
Oh,
Rabbeinu said, Teku is a lack. It's the word isn't complete. It's missing the letter nun. Tikkun.
What's Teku?
Teku means let it stand.
They did like a more a lot. and they
What's
just don't
Tikkun
finish
mean?
an argument.
Tikkun is it's fixed, rectified. We're gonna wait for Mashiach, which is I think the aspect of the 50th gate, maybe nun, to bring down the nun, to maybe Teku. I don't know.
What's Mashiach? That's so interesting.
Rabbeinu explained maybe something different than that. I just thought about that right now, but
Wait, so what does that? What does Teku have to do with the Gemara?
No, he's in the
Take
Gemara. Yeah, explain it.
No,
No,
they-
I have no idea. Like, I have no
take it whenever they don't have. It's like a machloket. They don't know how to
resolve it
resolve it. So there's like teku, let it stand like as.
until Eliyahu Navi comes and reveals it.
They go through like pages of arguments and just pick you.
Right.
It's like this is gonna be on the Gemara.
You don't find that in Judaism where they admit what they don't know.
It's amazing.
Rashi.
Rashi.
You know what I like a story of? I think I don't remember where it is in the Gemara, but it's of them arguing what happens to the sun when it sets. Where does it go? And they're arguing with the rabbis were arguing with the Greeks or the Greek theory or maybe Romans, I don't really know, of where the sun goes, and they're saying, well, the sun goes over the what do you call it in Hebrew? In creation it says that Hashem made a thing over the earth. They say it goes over that and it disappears, and then
It's like the heaven lights or whatever. So
It's like, well, it's very spiritual. There's no real thing how to explain it, you know. But they took it as a literal, and it goes over it, right? And then comes back, and then goes over it, and comes back. And they're like, well, the Greeks have to be right, because the Greeks say the earth is flat, and it goes under the earth and comes back around. They're both wrong. But the fact that they said we're wrong about this idea, the Greeks are right, because they said that's how the hot springs get hot, because the sun goes under the earth and warms the hot springs, and then it comes back up. So the fact that they admitted they were wrong, but no one was really right. And
The Zohar, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai writes that the earth was round 2,000 years ago.
Wow. That's insane.
He said there's places in the earth where it's dark and it's shaped like a balloon. Places in the earth where it's dark when the other place is night, and the times switch. And there's places where it could be dark for months at a time. It writes. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote
Where's
2,000
that?
years ago the earth was round.
wow.
Alaska.
Yeah.
Insane, no?
I thought it was Iceland. Yeah, you're right, Alaska.
In the Zohar.
Yeah.
Iceland also is the same idea, no?
Oh, I thought so. Yeah.
We're talking about Sipurei Masiot though, which is insane.
Greenland's
What we were talking about, the entire goal of the Torah is to bring it down to the lowest point, because then anyone can take it. And the hardest part of the Kabbalah is that the deepest secrets no one can understand. What the Baal Shem Tov did more than most of the other ones was that he brought it down to a point of called Chassidut, which is anyone can be righteous.
That was the whole movement. That's why
Exactly.
the Vilna Gaon was against that.
Yeah.
That's how.
Why was he-
Mitnagdim,
He
Chassidim.
was more, I mean, I don't want to speak for him. I'm sure he could read writings. I don't know, but I think he was more like against. Because it's more like Litvak is more like he said it wouldn't bring the right. Only certain people should learn this type of stuff because they won't take it the right way, or kind of like the idea of how like a lot of people are like, oh, you should wait until you're 40 to learn Kabbalah because
Which
it's
is,
two different approaches.
Chassidut is the exact opposite. We don't really follow that.
Yeah,
In
the
fact,
is
we
like learn it and like get happy with it and grow with it and
Right.
totally. And specifically Breslev, bro, we see all the Mekubalim, all the big Kabbalists died before the age of 40. So, Arizal was 38, Rabbi Nachman was 38, the Ramcha was 40.
Rory Kaplan recently.
He was.
I read
The 40 thing is between you and I. It's only for the people that never studied it.
I think it's for a different type of mind. I think
People are attracted to
some
different
people,
things.
Some people will not understand certain things and take it like there's a story. Where was it? That like the five, isn't it? Yeah, but for Shimon Bar Yochai, isn't it? Where 5 people went to learn Kabbalah, and then one of them went crazy, one of them killed
Oh,
himself.
in the story in the Gemara,
In the
in
Gemara, right?
Chagiga, where the 4 rabbis entered Pardes.
And then
4 rabbis entered Pardes. You're talking about Elisha Acher,
is that what I'm
Ben
talking
Zoma,
about?
Ben Azai,
Yeah,
and Rabbi
then one of
Akiva.
them killed himself, one of them went crazy, and
One died, one like
One died, and one unlocked.
One died, one went crazy. One became a heretic, and
Oh, a
one
heretic, yeah.
and one
Does Rabbi
came
Nachman
in
say
in
about
pieces.
Elisha ben Aguya? Interesting.
It's an interesting character.
Very, it's so
Where is that?
interesting
Which
how he
one?
got punished like that.
Chagiga, I think it's like Daf Yud Dalet or something. If you want to check it out.
Where I would have
Just
learned
think
that,
about
'cause I
punishment.
never learned Chagiga.
Chagiga is amazing Gemara. So deep.
Dude, that's pretty bad.
But what's the beauty of that? What's Nichnas Beshalom V'Yatza Beshalom? What did it mean that Rabbi Akiva went in peace and left in peace? He entered the secrets of the Torah, and yet was able to come out of it with a vessel. He didn't shatter the vessel. He was able to bring it down. That's maybe an understanding. Rabbi Nachman did this, and all his books, Sipurei Masiot, is the culmination of everything. The 13 tales that he told, they're stories. They're not even Torot. But what did we talk about? The mundane conversation of a tzaddik can be even bigger than the Torah to the biggest tzaddik of the generation. Sipurei Masiot, Rabbi Nachman said, is the highest teachings that he've ever brought down. The highest. Because he said to the students one day when they were all seated at the table, he said, I see my Torot aren't working with you guys. I wanted you guys to become tzaddikim gemurim, complete tzaddikim, but I see you guys aren't taking it. So I'm going to start telling stories. Stories are even greater than that. Especially the story that he brought. Sipurei Masiot, Mishanim Kadmoniot, from ancient times. He says these stories can wake a person up from the 50th gate of slumber. You know what that means? If we enter the 50th gate in Egypt, it says we'd have never gotten out, right? Rabbi Nachman said we're in the 50th gate right now. And only because of the Sipurei Masiot that he brought down can you wake a person up from the 50th gate. That's why Esther, Purim. What's Purim? The entire story of Purim is a story. There's no Torah behind it. There's not even the name of God behind it. You know why? Because they were in the 50th gate. And the entire secret of Esther telling Ezra to put Purim, to put the story of Esther in one of the 24 books of Tanakh, when Ezra Sofer did not want to include it. Why? Because he didn't even think it was a book of Kedusha. But she said that's the point. It's the highest book of Kedusha. It's Kodesh Kodashim because it goes down so low to wake up the lowest person. So Sipur HaMasiot, Rabbi Nachman says the 7 beggars is the highest of the 7 stories, of the 13 stories. And it's a story explaining the different tzaddikim of this world.
Bro, whenever you read it, you have no idea what's funny.
But you don't need to because your neshama understands this. We say in the Gemara, if you don't see it, your mazal sees it. The entire point is not to try to make us understand everything. To do something that is for the neshama, to repair us. Rabbeinu explains, this story can bring up out of anyone, out of any slumber. All the 13 stories. The Lost Princess is a famous story. The 7 beggars explains that there's 7 types of beggars, poor men, which represent a certain type of tzaddik. One is a hunchback. One has no hands. The last beggar, the 7th day, which is the 7th beggar, which is the highest beggar, is the one with no feet. And Rabbi Nachman said, this is the one Mashiach is going to tell. But Rabbi Nachman said, I encompass all these 7 beggars. He explains that some beggars could be alluded to, and there's different tzaddikim even in some of the stories. He speaks about, I think the Noam Elimelech is in one of the days. It's funny enough.
No way.
He didn't say it in the story, but there's allusions. David HaMelech. There's one that couldn't speak, that is mute. One is deaf. One without sight. I think one without sight, one couldn't see. But he says, I can see more than anyone in the entire world. What? Maybe, yeah.
I don't know, that's crazy.
It's insane. Because we, according to the tzaddikim, we say that they can't see this world, right? They have no hands for this world. They're completely removed. But they have the clearest vision of the entire world. He explained to one of the beggars. The beggar says, yeah, I can't see. But the truth is, I can see more than anyone in this entire world. It's the biggest paradox. I have no feet, but yet I have the most beautiful feet in the entire world. I have no hands, but yet I can build the most beautiful things. And this entire paradox. And Rabbi Nachman explained, these are all different tzaddikim. Which represents what? The different types of the menorah. The different 7 branches of the menorah. Each branch represents a certain tzaddik. But you know what their entire goal is? All the 7 branches of the menorah, all the 7 lights have to face the center. Why? The menorah in itself, which is who? The tzaddik that encompasses all those 7 beggars. Who is that? Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbi Nachman. The entire goal of each and every tzaddik I met, all the true tzaddikim, all those beggars, is to actually illuminate the entire world and to tell the entire world, who? Go to that tzaddik, the tzaddik I met, Moshe Rabbeinu. That's the entire goal of why they're here. Not to even explain their own teaching, it's to share the entire world with tzaddik I met. And when you see true tzaddikim going and actually give up themselves to nullify themselves before the true tzaddik, Moshe Rabbeinu, then that's when you know that there's emet. That their entire goal is to illuminate the entire world by spreading the light of the true tzaddik. That's the face of the menorah itself, Moshe Rabbeinu. That's Rabbi Nachman, that's Moshe Rabbeinu. That's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The 5 tzaddikim, there's 5 tzaddikim, Ben, because you're like familiar with this? Not familiar with this maybe? There's 5 tzaddikim that we say are at the aspect of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu himself, then came in Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Arizal, the Baal Shem Tov, and the final one was Rabbi Nachman, who said he was the last one before the Mashiach. Before the Mashiach will come and be the final piece. And they all say that they never tasted from the tree of Adam HaRishon. We say that all the nishamot were included within Adam's body when he tasted from the tree. And Adam blemished each and every soul in his own body, which was all the 600,000 souls of Am Yisrael, when he tasted from the tree. But there's 5 nishamot that left the body before he sinned, or 6 technically, including Mashiach. It's one neshama that from this branches these 5. Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama. And Rabbi Nachman said he was part of that neshama. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Baal Shem Tov said he never tasted from the tree. Comes back. And the lower we get, the bigger the tzaddik we need. And Rabbeinu is the final piece. So the Mashiach is going to come. And he's going to explain the 7 beggars. And all this stuff. So maybe we have the merit with Zat Hashem. Zat Hashem.